Have you ever felt a surge of excitement when making a big decision, like taking on a project, like pursuing a passion, or even stepping out of your comfort zone, only to have that excitement fade away? It's like you had all this energy, you had this inspiration, you were fearless, and then self doubt started creeping in. The voices in your head started getting louder, telling you, you're not right for this job. Who do you think you are? How can you afford doing what you're trying to do? What are your parents going to think? What are your friends going to think? Here's the thing, taking action is just the beginning. The key and the challenge is keeping yourself in a positive mindset, because your mindset isn't just about shaping your actions, it's about creating your realities. In today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about step 3 in the conscious creations model, how to keep a positive mindset after you've taken action. Hey, welcome to the AlignUs podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nikhil Sharma, and I'm so grateful to have you guys here with us today. Over the past 2 years, I've made the difficult transition from being a physician and working in a hospital to pursuing my soul's calling and creating purpose-driven businesses with the foundation of personal growth, helping heal individuals, and conscious living. Joining me today is my co-host, Alena Shaub, who is a social media manager, a Gen Z trailblazer, and who has a tremendous pulse on what is going on with our youth today. Welcome, Alena.
Hi, Nick. So happy to be here.
Awesome. And joining us and welcoming her back as our guest is the creator of the 5 Steps to Conscious Creation model, the Excitement Whisperer, and the author of The Best Life Ever, Taylor Wells. Welcome, Taylor.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. We're so glad to have you back here as well. We've been learning so much about how to take the steps in order to consciously create the life of our dreams. And what people don't understand, there's actually a method to be able to do this. And we're so lucky to have the creator of this method with us, helping our viewers and our audience to be able to pursue the thing that their soul is telling them to pursue. And today we're going to be talking specifically about how to keep yourself in a positive mindset. And the thing about you, Taylor, that I love is that you've helped so many people take these bold, inspirational actions. But along the way, they tend to have a moment where self doubt creeps in and that excitement goes away. Why do you think that happens to them?
So, first of all, I just want to have a little asterisk here. Thank you very much for giving me the credit for the big salad for creating conscious creation. So, just to be clear, this is actually how reality is created, and I've put it into a formula. But this is not like a cute meme or euphemism that we're just kind of making up here. Reality is created, these 5 steps. Okay. And I am very good at explaining it in a very real time, down to earth way and with examples. So, but to be clear, this is literally how reality is created. So if your inner critic says stuff like Nick was saying, when you're excited to do something and then kind of it starts to wax or wane and it's saying, well, I'm not sure about this and what will these people think? Remember, that's a part of it and that's exciting too. And I'll explain why. But this is literally a kit that is complete for how reality is created. So this is not kind of like, another one of those things, right? That, well, I'll try it and maybe it'll work. Actually, it always works. It's just, are you actually following it with precision? Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense.
Okay. So the question was how, when someone has a moment. Well, first of all, they don't have a moment. They have many moments. We all do, right? Where, it's not going to be just one time. And the reason why is because for your whole life, you have been conditioned and programmed in a certain way, and you're just learning kind of a new language. It's actually not new. It's what you knew when you stepped into this lifetime, okay? But you forgot. And the reason why you forget is so you can remember. Isn't that funny? So we're here remembering who we are, right? We're waking up. And you know the feeling when you are starting to wake up because you're like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. Or that feels really good, what she's saying. And then your critic jumps in and goes, too good to be true. You went to medical school, blah, 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 whatever. And you don't try to kill that critic, right? Your ego, or you don't hate it or whatever people tend to say. No, because that's a part of you, right? And we all have these many parts, and it's about embracing them and embracing when that doubt comes up. That is part of your excitement, because under the doubt is a belief, a false belief that's not serving you. Okay. So it's going to happen. Expect it and train yourself just like you train yourself in many different ways to do many different things. I'm learning German right now. That takes training to flip the coin from, my God, I'm having doubt. Something's wrong. This is wrong, or this is not going to work, to, wait a minute. This is so exciting, because if I feel doubt and afraid, fear is only, right, part of me that's saying you have some belief that doesn't serve you. Fear is a gift. It shows you have a belief that is not in alignment with your highest self. Okay. And excitement, back to step one, which is just follow your excitement. The reason you do that, if you choose to do this, you can always DPR, choose, prefer, and resonate with it or not. You can chuck it. Okay. I'm not here to pitch. I don't pitch things anymore. It doesn't work. If it resonates, try it out. Actually, don't try it. Just do it. But anyway, so the doubt is a wonderful thing. Expect it and embrace it and celebrate it. You didn't think I'd say that, did you?
No, I mean, I didn't, but I was thinking about that earlier today about how the doubt allows us a moment to reflect and be aware of something that within us is not serving us. Oftentimes, though, that doubt for certain individuals can overwhelm them. And when doubt creeps up, and remember, everyone is different. Our nervous systems are all built differently. So it's really important for us to understand that. And we have a fear center. It's called the amygdala. And that center is where all of our negative emotions start rising, especially after we start taking action. Those imposter syndromes, that fear, that anxiety of how we're going to do this, that's all stemming from that amygdala. And that is driven from our sympathetic nervous system. And some people have a more sensitive sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, which is trying to keep us as safe as possible. So those doubts that start coming up, like you said, Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
they are meant to come up to help protect us. But oftentimes, it's overly protecting us because it's been trained to do that. It's been trained to think everything is an attack on us, even if it's just a perceived threat. So, the amazing thing about our brain is that we have something called the prefrontal cortex, which is all about logic, which is about reasoning, which is where your positive emotions are regulated. And that region can actually override our amygdala, which is our fear center. And we can consciously do that by feeding it positive emotions, meditation, journaling, visualization. There's techniques to help train that prefrontal cortex to help us become more resilient. So it's important for those out there understanding that, yes, doubt is going to come up. It is natural. Expect it. But understand over time, your brain has a beautiful ability to rewire itself. It's called neuroplasticity. And that is what conscious creation helps us do, is to become aware of things. And then we have tools to kind of help solve that problem for you so that you can keep taking steps forward.
Yes. And I loved everything you said. And isn't it great how he's a physician, so he can use all the fancy terms that we don't?
I'm
Thank
fancy.
you
I'm
for that.
fancy.
You're very fancy. I love
You're
it.
welcome.
So, so, well, the reason I love it so much is because you're rooting it in science and medicine, and that helps people whose inner critic says this is a load of you know what. Okay. And that's fine. Skepticism. I love when people ask me questions. It's my favorite thing ever. Highest excitement. I don't prefer cynicism. Cynicism, my belief is that cynicism is CIA. So cynicism equals ignorance and arrogance. Because if you choose to have an open mind and then say, that's interesting, no thanks, awesome, right? However, if you're shut down to any new information, that's a shame, because there's so much. I mean, every single day I learn so much, and I learn how much I don't know, right? Every day that we know more, we know how much, because it's a big, big multiverse. So back to the doubt, everybody. So positivity, I wrote a book and I wrote an inspiration card deck. So that's a lot of words, a lot of information, to train yourself. They're helpful. However, you really do need to find the belief because it's still going to keep squirting up. So affirmations are great, reading positive stuff, being around positive people. And it's really important you find that belief first that's encouraging you to choose negativity instead. Everything is a choice. Everything. Hi, doggy. Everything is a choice. So when people say to me, oh, I know I have that habit, I say, that's not a habit. You're choosing that. Like once you're aware of something, you're choosing it. And now you have that power, right? You have the power of illusion that everything is filtering through your neurological net. Okay. So, and what Dr. Nick said is awesome because you do need some practices, right? You can't just be like, okay, I'm going to do what, they said to do. You got to have some way of kind of learning this, remembering this. And I really recommend meditation, yoga, blah, blah, but find what's right for you. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So the when we're talking about this doubt that's creeping in, and now I'm thinking about Alena, I'm thinking about the Gen Zers, I'm thinking about instant gratification all the time. So talk to me a little bit about what's going on in the Gen Z population with how the world is right now. There's a lot of distraction. There's a need for instant gratification. And I see it with like my nephews, my nieces, when something happens, they get deflated like right away. And then it's over. Whatever they're trying to do, then they just distract them with something else and they stop going after what was exciting them at the time. And now they just like bounce from one thing to the next and they never really finish anything. So, what are you seeing in the population currently? And what can people do to try to help themselves get past some of these issues that are happening?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're obviously always on our phones nowadays, and that's where we're getting a lot of this false excitement, I would say. So I would say one of my main quick suggestions is obviously one, get off that phone, which I know you're tired of hearing me say. But simply write a list, make a list and keep it in your notes of every time you say, like, I love something, even if it's just in a simple, you're talking about ice cream. Oh, I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. Write that down. Every time anything comes to mind like that, just keep a list of all the things that inspire you, that come up and just make you joyful, whether it's from ice cream to a huge business and passion that you want to chase, because that will help you to, reconnect with yourself and figure out what you truly like, not what social media is telling you to like or what social media is telling you to do, but just really disconnect and find out what it is that the authentic, real you wants out of life and then follow that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. I think that what you said there, especially about disconnecting and going into a little bit of a solitude, I think that right there was a pivotal thing that I know I had to do when I was making a transition from being that physician and pursuing this dream of being an entrepreneur, was that I needed to go into solitude. And the reason why was that there's so much energy out there that influences what you do on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of it is subconsciously influenced. You're not even recognizing that energy, that the TV, your internet, the feeds that come up, the people that you follow, they're oftentimes putting a lot of fear out into the world. And we tend to absorb that fear. So I knew that I needed to step away from social media and then my family, my friends, because they are also whispering poison into your ear and kind of making you double think what your soul is telling you to do because you only know what it is that's making you excited. Nobody else knows that. And so oftentimes they will start telling you things that are going to deter you from moving forward and really have that doubt creep in and then that negativity starts spiraling. So it's really important for us to protect our energy, and the best way I found to do that was going into solitude. And if you can't go into solitude because you have kids and you have a family, at least spending 30 minutes to an hour in the morning to yourself, away from phones, away from your family. Sometimes you have to just be upfront and honest with your husband, your wife, and let them know, look, I need an hour every single day in the morning to just be in my own thoughts, to meditate, to journal, to not be distracted so that I can really think and hear what is it my soul is telling me to do today? What do I need to tap into? Do I feel aligned? What is my body telling me? Because oftentimes we are so distracted all the time and we never really know what we're supposed to be doing because we're just doing whatever everyone else wants us to do. And we think that that's the solution to everything, when in fact, that's the absolute worst thing we can do for ourselves, what often leads us to having burnout. And when we're not in our best self, everybody around us is going to suffer. So it's important for us to understand that doing things for ourselves, taking time to solitude, and then I found that creating a mental resilience routine is very, very beneficial for you. So for me, that looks like waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, doing 10 minutes of journaling, and then I recite a mantra for about 5 minutes. I do that every single day. So no matter what happens throughout the evening, I know that the next morning, I'm going to put myself in a positive mindset by doing this mental resilience routine. And you know what happens over time? That beautiful word, neuroplasticity, and your brain starts training itself again and again and again. And before you know it, you become this warrior, like Neo in the Matrix, like dodging bullets everywhere that's coming at you. And nothing is going to stop you from getting to your dream because you've learned the tools to get there.
Love the morning practice. I too wake up very early and I practice yoga. I practice prana power yoga and I meditate before I have any connection with any human being. So I've done that for 25 years. I've never missed a day. I do hesitate sometimes to say that because people sometimes shut down then, like, I can't do that. So start where you are. Maybe you take 15 minutes. I love what Dr. Nick said about, talking to your, friends, if you're living with friends, if you're in this age group or you're with a partner, roommates, whatever. Honestly, if you get up real early, they ain't going to know anyway, because I have 5 kids and a handsome husband and they're all sleeping for several hours before, um, when I wake up, I should say. So to me, that's that important. And as Dr. Nick said, like, it's just the way that you start that day really, really helps. And I'm going to say a little bit about why step 3 is about a positive outlook. Okay. This is super important. So there are 5. Is that okay, Dr. Nick,
Yeah,
to say
of
why?
course.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we're, we're here for it.
okay, cool. So, because if you understand and you're going to find your own way, what we just talked about, like maybe it's, meditation, bath, journaling, we can talk about that later. This is why it's important. So step 1 is follow your highest excitement. Step 2 is take action. All right. So I had a client today talking about like, yeah, I know that. And I said, no, you don't, because you're not doing it. If you know it, you're doing it. Okay. If you're not doing it, you don't know it. Up here doesn't matter. So that was step 2, action. Step 3 is to take it as far as you can, the action, right? It's going to get to a point where, it stops naturally for whatever reason. Maintaining a positive outlook. And here's why. So the universe responds to your energy. You are one energy. Okay. So it doesn't matter what's happening. The circumstance that's unfolding doesn't matter. What matters is how you respond. What matters is your outlook. Why? Because the universe is responding to your energy. And what people say is, I know, but when it's going well, then I'll respond well. And I say, it doesn't work that way. Okay. It's the opposite. That's the cart before the horse. So that's like saying, looking at a mirror, frowning and saying, I'll smile when the mirror smiles first. It literally is no different because everything is a reflection. All right. So even if you never knew this and just now you heard this and it clicked, if you from this moment forward, every situation, even if you forgot the other steps, which please remember the steps because they all work and please do them because they really work. But if you just remembered, all right, no matter what's happening, I'm going to flip the coin and somehow find that silver lining, that positivity, because it is there. Okay. I've worked with people for almost 25 years with histories you don't want to hear about. Okay. And in anything happening, as traumatic as it is, there is always something on which you can focus. Okay. So I don't want to hear that there isn't, because there is. You can find it when you set that intention. And when you do, The universe hears you. And here's what you're putting out. This sucks. This isn't about saying something doesn't suck, by the way. Feel it fully. 15 seconds I'll give you. That's it. That's physiological. This sucks. Feel it fully. Then why do you have here? Then neutral. Okay. Then how are you serving me exactly as you are? Not I'll feel better when this is over, or when he's nicer, or when she does this, or when I have a job, or whatever it is. In this moment, how am I being served? Okay. And it could even just be, I have no idea, but I know that in some way, this is going to serve me. You can say something like that. That works, you guys. You don't have to know. In fact, you can't know because your higher mind knows, your lower mind does not know. That's why Dr. Nick was talking about fight or flight with all the fancy words. Those are physiological responses responding to a belief. Okay. So if the belief is crappy, it's not going to be a positive response. Do you understand that? So the key is get to the belief. And also all these things come into play. Get up earlier. Set your template. Get into alignment first. Okay. Practice this. People are like, I don't want to practice. I just want it to happen. It's like, that's like going to Wimbledon and never having hit a tennis ball. Are you kidding me? You need to practice. All right. And what else is more important? Nothing. You can create anything with this. So literally your chosen positivity, not phony though. Okay. The universe smells a rat.
I
So
was just thinking about that in my head as about phoniness, about like that toxic positivity where you're just like rah rah, and you're like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and that happens all the time. Like there's so many people that fake their positivity, and it's not real, and then the outcomes that you're trying to make happen will never happen because you're not aligned with what it is you're trying to do. You are forcing something to make happen, but it's not coming from your highest self and not coming from an aligned place inside.
it would be better, you guys, to be like, this sucks. So remember, I promise you, physiological anger is actually an alignment principle. You know that, like, you get that hit, you get that rush, and you're like, ah. What that's telling you is it's actually a beautiful thing. You don't need anger management, please. No, it's a gift. You say, I am not that. Okay. But the key is that whatever that is allowed to be there. We're all allowed to be here doing our thing. Let it go. I don't choose it, prefer it, CPR, or resonate with it. All right. But it's allowed. Now, if you get off on like, this is why I blah, 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 guess what? It's going to stick to you. And now you're distracted. You've completely forgotten positivity. You get this? Right. It's very simple. It sounds complicated. It's so simple. So basically, whatever happens, remember, it doesn't matter what happens or what's happening. What matters is what you do with it. And the universe says, sometimes we test ourselves, right? So we change a belief, right? The belief usually is, I'm not good enough. I hear this all day long from people. People who, maybe look a certain way. You would never think they're thinking this, but they're thinking that. And I say, well, that's very arrogant of you. And they're like, what? That's not arrogant. That's humble. I go, no, because every single being, not just human being, every spirit is good enough because you were created by all that is. That's it. So if you say you're not good enough, that means you're different than every other spirit. So positivity, going back, right? When you choose, okay, I don't have that nailed yet. I still kind of feel like I'm an imposter. I'm like kind of not good enough. I'm not worthy. I know this works because I kind of trust her for some reason and she seems pretty passionate about it. And I'm open. I'm open to knowing there's some reason that this shitty thing is happening. Can you do that? Anyone can do it. Can you do it? I think you can.
That's
Then
really
the
well
universe
said.
responds and it sends you. It goes like this. Dr. Nick, positivity, send him more. If someone's being phony positive and they didn't feel the feeling, so I'm trained as a psychologist, so you definitely want to feel that feeling, okay? Feel it. But it doesn't have to be a long time. It doesn't. It can be quick.
No, I agree. And you kept saying you can't really control what happened, what other people do, but we can control how we respond. And that's the only thing that we can control in this world is ourselves and how we show up and how our emotions are displayed. And that's the power because emotional mastery and self mastery are the most powerful things we can ever try to accomplish in this world. And we're not going to be perfect. We're not always going to be stoic. There's going to be times where self doubt is going to creep in and it might start spiraling us just a little bit. But over time, you're going to put in the repetitions to have worked on yourself and worked on your thoughts, and you'll get better and better at combating those negative feelings that come up in our brain and those self doubts. And you'll be like ready to keep moving and start manifesting at such a fast pace. Like, and when you get to this energy that you're at your highest frequency, which is authenticity, which is self love and unconditional love, you're literally magnetizing things at such a rapid pace. It's truly an unbelievable feeling. And I feel like recently I have gotten there, and that's after 2 years. And let me tell you, this is 2 years of working on my passion and trying to create these companies and not making a single dollar for almost 2 years until recently. But just imagine that feeling of every day waking up, you don't know where the money's coming from. You're
I
having
know.
to keep yourself in such a positive state of being, because if you allow that thought to take over, that where is finances coming from, then it's going to get you into a real bad place and you're going to quickly abort mission very fast. Like, oh, okay, I need to run back to the hospital. I need to hurry up and do some moonlighting. I need to start overextending myself. Like your toxic pattern will continue to repeat itself. But the key is focusing on how to keep yourself grounded in the present moment, because in the present moment, you are there's no what happened before in the past. There's no future tripping about something. You can start controlling what can I do right now to maybe help myself with those finances. Can I reach out to a firm that can help loan me some money? Can I reach out to my parents? Can I budget myself a little bit better? You are thinking much more clearly when you are grounded in the present moment. So, just giving some strategies for
One
people
thing
to get
about
in the
that,
thing.
hold on, one thing, but before you say that, this is perfect. What Dr. Nick just said, when you're in a positive mindset that you have chosen, it's a choice. Okay. So something happened, you're not thrilled about, whatever, and you've chosen. Why? Because, choosing the negative mindset, ask yourself, how's that going so far? Not well. Okay. I promise you it's not. So once you choose that, everyone, you will get the download. You will get the solution. You will think of
Yes.
this, but you're not available for it if you're not home. If you're not home to open the door, if you're in negativity, the universe cannot give you the answer. Okay,
Right.
go ahead.
That's right. Because what happens is your brain is fogged. Just imagine it's like you hitting your knee on the wall and your knee all of a sudden starts swelling up. You just had trauma to your knee. Now, we can't see what trauma to our brain looks like, but that's like a negative thought that pops up into your brain. It causes your cells to swell. And then there's inflammation in your brain. And that inflammation leads you to have cloudy judgment and repeats that cyclical pattern of you going into the fear center and then wanting to repeat the same toxic patterns and come up with impulsive decisions, which never end up being well or end up doing anything good for you.
Doing
So
well.
it's
Yeah.
important to be grounded in the present moment. And for me, the ways I can quickly do that and remove self doubt are I can I can use a 5 4 3 2 1 method where if there is a negative thought that comes into my brain, I literally start saying out loud 5 4 3 2 1, and it helps me just focus myself away from that negative thought and reset myself. Other ways to do it that I like are grounding myself by using my senses, because your senses are so powerful. So oftentimes I'll take a walk into nature. I will smell what's around me. I will visualize like the leaves. I will touch the trees. That's why you see a lot of people walking barefoot, in the parks, or why it feels so good to walk barefoot on the beach, right? There's something about that which helps ground you and helps you stay in the present moment. So those two things I would highly recommend you trying and implementing, because I know for me, I've had to do that on a daily basis, and that's how you get better. It's rewiring, it's knowing the tools, and then it's applying those tools when that negative thought comes up. And don't and be compassionate with yourself. When it does happen the first time, it might spiral for like hours. But you know what? A month later, when you keep trying to put these tools in, maybe it goes down to 30 minutes, then 15 minutes, then 10 minutes. That's the beauty of this, is nothing happens immediately or overnight, but it does take a little bit of time to fully train yourself. But what you're learning with Taylor and this conscious creation model is that, we can do something about that right now. We can take action towards our dreams. And then there's these grounded techniques we can use to keep ourselves in a positive state of being. I just
The
want to ask
breath.
breath, breath.
Inhale for 4, hold for 4. Those two grounding, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale, hold a box. That
And
works. Go ahead.
so I wanted to ask Alena, I know you've been facing some challenges. You moved from one state to another. You're pursuing your own entrepreneur dreams. What has been a challenge for you to keep yourself in a positive state of being? And what are some techniques that you like to use to keep yourself grounded and in a positive state of being?
Yeah. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I moved from Pennsylvania to Tampa, Florida this past year. I went to Temple University for a total of like a weekend. It was like 4 days. I went to classes for 1 day and then I left. And I was always good in school, had great grades, loved to learn, but I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to study. I knew the lifestyle I wanted to live. I just didn't necessarily know if college was going to be the way to get me there. So I took a crazy leap and I dropped out. I went back home, and then a year later, I basically ended up here in Florida, and I don't regret it at all. So since then, I mean, there has definitely been some serious doubts that have come up, like how are you going to be able to be successful without a college degree? How are you going to afford to live on your own in another state? A million things. And it was one of the scariest things I'd ever done. But similar to what you were saying, Nick, and it's a testament to your resilience as well as you were kind of explaining your story, but you just have to get tunnel vision and just hammer down on knowing that your path is not everyone else's path. And if you truly know something, which like I truly knew I did not want to be in that college, and people who know me would be like, "That is insane, like, Lena dropping out of school, that is nuts. Because 'cause I'm a very by the book kind of gal, but I just knew, and once you know, you just put your earplugs in, you put your head down, and you have to look for the little signs that things are working out right for you, as opposed to looking for everything and hearing everything that are all the ways that it could go negatively. So, that's just what's helped me is just, really getting that tunnel vision and kind of just blocking out all the noise.
I love that. And I think you also mentioned that faith, played a large role in this because it's truly going into the unknown, which is the most scariest thing you can possibly do. But at the same time, the most exhilarating thing you can possibly do. And sometimes when we switch our mindset to think about the unknown as your dream coming true, a desire being filled, well, then fighting that fear seems a lot less daunting. It seems a lot more exciting, and it puts you in a mindset of being like, you know what? All right, let's get down and let's get to work. And by getting to work, it's about working on ourselves, working on our nervous system, working on our mentality, and that's the greatest thing we can do for ourselves in this lifetime is getting to know who we are, how our emotions work, what it is that we truly want, and then creating that, taking action on that. And going after self actualization to its highest level and self emotional fulfillment. Because I think that's what we all desire in this life. We are just not all given the tools to be able to do that. And with Taylor's 5 steps to content creation model, she is giving you the steps that it takes to be able to follow through on whatever it is that's making you excited. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why we've had guests with Dr. Priyanka Nayak, Kevin, Alena. So many people out there have taken that faith and understand what the actions are that you need to do and the mentality that you need to have. But there's many, many others out there that don't know what to do. And we're here to tell you that there's a way, there's a community, and we're here to help support you on that journey. And so, Taylor, are there any final words that you have to give our audience as they are thinking about, you know, going after what's making them happy and taking action on that? And then what it is like, what are the roadblocks that they're going to face, which is all about keeping yourself in that positive mindset because it's truly step 3, I feel, is what can get you to the next level. Because
Mhm,
oftentimes people take that leap of faith,
mhm,
but then they quickly go back to where they came. They're like, this is too scary out here. I'm
mhm,
good.
mhm,
I'll try next year.
mhm, mhm. So, yes, thank you. And I loved everything you both have said. It's wonderful. And remember, everyone will get little bits from everything that's said. Take what you prefer. I use CPR, choose, prefer, and resonate. Okay. Those are helpful words to use instead of want. This is just a little tip, because when you say that you want something, you're in a state of wanting. And since everything is now, it can't come because it's always now. So that's kind of a brain teaser for you. And just remember, I came up with CPR because my clients were constantly asking me, like, wait, I can't say that, but what can I say? So you can remember that, and just that little tip. Anyway, so first of all, when you're diving into the unknown, as both of these superheroes have done and continue to do on a daily basis, the only thing you will find in the unknown, as scary as it seems, is more of yourself. Okay, that's all that's there. There's nothing there to scare you. It is what I call your inner critic or your negative ego, your lower mind. So remember, you've got this lower mind, you got this higher mind. If you're only operating from your lower mind, you're operating as a half-wit, no offense, but you really are. This mind sees everything and knows that all roads lead back home. Okay. So these two follow this, and it made no sense. I've done it as well. I left blah, blah, blah you can Google it. But the point is, when you're following excitement, true excitement, not anxiety, which we can talk about next time, the differentiation, that is your higher mind. That's what you want to listen to, even though if it makes no sense. Like, she should never drop out of school. He should never leave being a medical doctor. I should never leave working at Harvard, right? Well, we did, by the way, and it's going pretty well. So anyway, the point is, your critic is always going to find something negative. Okay. That's his, her, or their job. Why? Because they're boots on the ground. You're here in physical reality. What happened in the past, blah, 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 does not have any ability to create, no ability. So have you ever met someone who doesn't really know what they're doing? And so they kind of bully you because they're like kind of embarrassed and they feel like an imposter. That's your lower mind, but they don't mean harm. They just don't know. So expect it and say, oh, I know you. I know you. You're the one who's going to say this, and be playful. Enlightenment is lightening up. Okay. You're an eternal, infinite being. What's the rush? There is no rush. So calm down, follow the formula, choose positivity when it makes no sense. Why? Because when you choose it, it's going to go better when you actually choose it, not when you're fake. Okay. It just doesn't work. It can't. It just doesn't. So choose it, and you can say, I have no idea how, because you don't. But when you choose positivity, you're going to get the download. You're going to know, oh my God, I said the best idea. So, and there's one other thing Dr. Nick said, that it takes time. I know why he said that. And that's kind of a common collective consciousness belief, and it's fine. And it gives you relief. Like, okay, good. I'm not a loser because it's taking me time, and I get it. Okay. And you get to choose. That also is a belief. So faith is
True.
wonderful. Faith is wonderful. What's even higher, meaning more of a done deal, is belief. And what's highest is knowing. When you know, you know. And the only thing it is a decision. That's it. Now, sometimes you have to suffer because you choose to until you know. But why not just know? Do you really want to suffer? You don't really have to. But I'm not going to take it away from you. Suffer all you want. And in the end, your higher mind will say, welcome home, because you're always going to end up there where these guys have chosen to go, and me as well. Your process is your process. And it does sometimes take time if you choose it. And that's why you're here on earth, to have a process. So it's all good. You can't screw it up. And if you do, meaning like if it doesn't go well, like your critic will say like, you're going to look stupid and blah, blah, blah. And you're not going to make money and you're going to be homeless. Blow it up as big as you can. Go, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, literally do this and just really amplify it. And then go like this to your critic. The 2-word mantra. Ready? You ready? Write it down. So what? So what? And guess what? Your critic will like walk away and be like, all right, whatever. If they listen to that podcast, all right, we'll get them next time when they're tired or hungover, whatever.
I just love listening to you, Taylor. I hope people out there like listen to this. This is brilliance. This is genius. This is the way of being. We're truly magicians. We're magical. We're alchemists. And we can say, F it. It didn't work. Who cares? Let's move on. We're going to create something else. When you get into that mindset, you're just able to do anything you ever could possibly dream of. And that's the way we should be living our life, is in that alchemy type of mindset and being. And it doesn't take long to get there. There's a process. But like you said, anything happens at any given moment, and it's about you knowing that it's going to happen to you. And so we're just so grateful for everyone that's out there today that was tuned in and listened to us. We're so grateful to have you part of the community. And until next time,